Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Welcome everybody to our Saturday program. I know a lot of our devotees actually RSVP that they might be going out of town for the Thanksgiving weekend, so it's understandable that we have a little bit less crowd now. But for those who are over here and those who are watching online, there are quite a few devotees I see who are watching online. Welcome to our Saturday event. We are extremely fortunate to have amongst us Her Grace Malati Devi Dasi. A big Haribol to Her Grace Malati Devi Dasi. So a very, very brief introduction. Hare Krishna, Devi Dasi has been part of Srila Prabhupada's movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement for more than 5 decades. She's held multiple different services and roles within ISKCON, and even at this point of time, she's our co-GBC chair until the end of this year. And she's also been very intimate with all our ISKCON Indiana devotees, or our entire yatra, our entire congregation. She has visited us and given us her association multiple times. Please take every opportunity to hear from her, inquire from her, and seek her guidance, either during the class or even after the class, and make the best use of this association. Okay, so one more time, we will welcome her by chanting the Hare Krishna Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Can you see in the back? Maybe we can move that couch up.
We can move. I'll move that couch.
Yeah. And then.
You should leave the chairs.
On the screen, so move the redundant, they would need to sit here, and that would be more room for people to come forward and get a better. Can you come over there, all right? Are you able to see that? So, ladies, you can come and sit up here because you'll want to be able to see from the screen.
I think we can keep it over there. It's plenty of space over there.
माता जी, you want to sit here?
All together, and then there's
आ जाओ, वहाँ से दिखेगा नहीं आपको. The corner will come.
And then these overheads here, can you shut down?
Yes. Or this whole target will not dark. We can try, let's see. And then somebody can tell us. Let's put it off the.
Is it all or nothing situation?
It is.
Okay, but you can see it. Yeah, and there's light coming in from back there, so it's not like you're in a cave.
What?
Yeah, okay. So this is a small presentation. Is there a clock
Yeah.
that I can see? It will say. So it's like 6 o'clock. And is it okay if I go till 7?
Yes, yes.
You know? So this was the original Bishop Devi Dasi, who was Prabhupada's disciple and the current temple president at Bhaktivedanta Manor in the UK. And Sri Devi Dasi, who was a cook for Srila Prabhupada. She's an exquisite gourmet cook trained by Devi Dasi. And we were asked to have a presentation for this leadership meeting that was going to be held in 2016. And we wanted to do something that would highlight Srila Prabhupada's interactions and relations with the female disciples, because most of everything that was kind of known or current was from the point of view of the men. Now we have a few books that, please don't drop anything over like yourself. So what you'll be seeing is, it's like, if you just look at it, and I put it on, it would be 11 minutes. But we're going to look, and I'll pause here and there. I can't pause on every picture because the time would not permit. So this nice buddy is kind of take, pause and start again. And I'll be commenting on a few of them to give some idea of the situation that was going on, because many of these pictures you've seen before, but most likely you didn't know the backstory. Just like the picture of Srila Prabhupada over there on the on your left. So there's Srila Prabhupada standing as a formal pose, and he has a danda. The dandas are normally up to the head of the person who's holding it, but in this case, it's quite tall. The backstory is this was a spontaneous, let's take a portrait type of picture for the BBT. And obviously, I need a danda because he said, and the only danda was Ramananda Swami. And he was much larger than Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, accepted it in spirit, so that's why it's a big danda. So a lot of times there's like these little interesting backstories. So here, so I'm going to just read that because not everybody will maybe be able to see it, and then as soon as I finish, just start. Okay. So far as your question regarding women, I have always accepted the service of women without discrimination. And this is a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Guru Das in 72. And there is a backstory about that. There was some complaint about Jamuna's involvement, like she wouldn't be involved. And that was Prabhupada's answer. So this is entitled Srila Prabhupada's Shower of Mercy. And this is in London, and the occasion is the installation of the first large marble deities in ISKCON, Radha Mandanishwara, named by Srila Prabhupada, and who was his right-hand assistant, Srimati Devi Dasi, who Prabhupada had personally been giving instruction. So although there were many of the senior men, etc., available, Jamuna was the one he chose because she was trained, she was knowledgeable, and she was also very devotional. So here is one of the artists, the early artists. In the early books, there was the illustrations because Srila Prabhupada could understand that people were not so much inclined nowadays to sit and read philosophy. But by having the illustrations that would provide some context and also make the books more attractive. And the paintings in those books, those days, were directed by His Divine Grace himself. Like they would say, well, what color should Krishna's dhoti be? Or how should it be tied? And he would stand up and he would tie his own dhoti to give them the idea how it should look. And he turned these pictures, the a window into the spiritual world. So Genevieve, she was one of the early artists, and she's showing something. So this picture here, Dr. Malati Dasi, this is in France, and it was a very large venue. And she was the person who was chosen to represent probably France as his interpreter, because she had an extraordinary good grasp of the philosophy, she had a good memory, and she, most of all, she didn't try to interpret to her comfort the words of Srila Prabhupada. She was an excellent translator. And there was one time when there was something came up, and so she translated as she heard it, that Prabhupada, who, didn't know French, but he still could understand. He was so acute that he said, no, it should be like this. So you can see the same picture, and then you can see how big this was. This was a big event. So in India, all the acharyas and their descendants later on acted only from the men's side. Their wives were at home because that was the system from old times, that women are not required. But in Bhagavad Gita, we find women are also equally competent, like the men, in the matter of Krishna consciousness movement. Please, therefore, carry on these missionary activities and prove it by practical example. There's no bar for anyone in the matter of preaching work for Krishna consciousness. So this was a letter to anybody, one of the early disciples. But it speaks volumes. So we can't speed it up, so. So here we have Govinda Dasi. She was married to Gaurasundar, and together they were serving Srila Prabhupada, but she was like the secretary. So she would bring the mail, he would read it, he would then, maybe make some comment or write, speak a letter, she would take notes, and he would then read what she wrote and sign it. And here she is on the morning walk, just stop it, taking the notes. And this, as it says in the Jamuna at John Lennon's estate, where we spent some time. Here we see a large Pano program in Mumbai. This is the Dietary Devi Dasi, who lives outside of Detroit in Birmingham. And, the women were always a big part of what was going on. On every one of these big programs, one side would be the men, the other side would be the women. So here we see, like on the left, your left, my left, is Madhuri Devi Dasi, who at that time was the wife of Krishna Goswami before he took sannyas, but in program, and she's up there on stage. On your right, there is this Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This is at John Lennon's estate when we lived there. There is that full Malati Devi Dasi behind him, and one of the first ladies to join in Britain, Bhakti Denise, who became Draupadi Devi Dasi, and then it's kind of hard to see, but her little kid is there, that was Dylan, and he became Nirnanda. And the little girl grabbing on the Prabhupada was Saraswati Devi Dasi. And there's a little bit of a funny story there, because I was cooking for the devotee's breakfast when he would go on his morning walk. And so I didn't go on the morning walks, obviously. And there were these, like the little place we lived, there was these, what we call double Dutch doors. It means the doors on the top half can open up, the bottom half stays closed. So because he would be going by where I was, I would leave that bottom half open. And Saraswati couldn't see what was going on, but she could hear, because his cane tap, 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 and she knew he was coming. And she was jumping up and down, and she managed to get the handle and get the door open, and she ran out and grabbed his hand. So then he looked at her and he goes, Saraswati, you're not properly dressed, because you can see it's a big, a coat on, heavy, scarf around his neck. So she turned and looked at me, but didn't say anything, but the look said, get my coat. I brought, she had this house slippers, because he probably, they're called Wellington boots, and rubber boots, because the grass would be wet in the morning. So, so I brought the boots, I brought her coat, but she didn't let it go. So I took the coat on one arm, and then she took her hand with that and let go with the other hand, but, to put the coat on. She wasn't gonna, And there's another large program. I don't know what I was saying or why, but, the Prabhupada would ask the ladies to speak. You didn't come, he would say, so here I am, Saraswati was always on part of the show. And somehow Malati Devi Dasi was asked to say something by grace. So here again is Madhuri assisting at a fire yoga. And behind is actually Kasaya Devi Dasi, who is a very dynamic devotee. I'll say more about her a little later. But over here on the right, again, is Jochi Mahi. And this is at New Mayapur in France, where we just got this huge castle. And she was appointed by Srila Prabhupada to be the head mistress of the Guru School there. My daughter also was sent there from Dallas, and we closed that down. She's sitting under this gigantic oak tree where Srila Prabhupada performed initiations. And that oak tree is so old, it was present during the French Revolution. But I like to imagine that tree got liberated because Srila Prabhupada did his initiations there. So this lady, Dr. Sharma, was an early well-wisher in Mumbai. So this is Bombay, which I really like much better, Bombay. But it was across the street from where we stayed at the first residence we finally got. It was called a Kashkaka. And the Didis of Juhu were also there. That's where they were first at a big Pandal program, which was like Cross Maidan program. Was very familiar with the history. That was a big, big thing. And then they came to live in this little flat. And this Kashkaka was one of the early quote-unquote high-rises apartments. So we were on the 7th floor, and we had that place. And so she would accompany Prabhupada on this morning walks. And she was a doctor, and we were sick all the time. Somebody was always sick. And she was always helping us like anything. So here we have the Shakti Dasi. And this happens to be in Mayapur. She's getting Gayatri Mantra. So turning the page back without moving anything, she entered India, Jean, and she had no interest in any type of spirituality or religion. She was coming purely as a photographer. And her boyfriend was John, and he'd been there on assignment from a magazine from New York to photograph the Hare Krishna movement. So then he said, why don't you come over, his role was about done, and they had this idea they were going to go photograph a Indian village. And Prabhupada said, well, why would you do that? You don't understand their language, they don't understand your language, all your equipment will just get stolen. But if you want to go somewhere, go to Vrindavan. She was an avowed atheist, just like Prahlad Maharaj would preach forcefully to his young people, like it was, wasting a time like this. And she would preach equally forcefully atheism to her classmates. Her parents were also atheists. So when she arrived in Bombay, we were still at that ISKCON building, and I heard the doorbell rang, and I answered the door. I knew she was coming. I said, why did you come? I have come to photograph the essence of India. She's a very kind of phone person, and I just, oh, you come to the right place, and you run up and slap some tea on her forehead. Anyway, due to the presence of Srila Prabhupada, and due to his sending them to Vrindavan, that is where things came together for her. And so now here she got initiated and married in Vrindavan, and here she is in Mayapur getting Gayatri mantra. The power of moments association with the pure devotee. And then here she is, and she, we have different kind of passports. That camera was her passport to go anywhere at any time with Prabhupada. Although it wasn't an official appointment, she was practically speaking the official photographer. Not, Yadavar also. But, the morning walks were sometimes limited, but she could always be there because she had that camera. Time I asked her a question, I said, what did you learn of those morning walks? She said how to walk backwards really fast. Because taking the picture. This is the first arti of the manor. This is also at the manor. So this was a little early effort to, it wasn't self-sufficiency because this vegetables came from, the wholesaler, but they were purchased wholesale, and this was in Los Angeles when I got the first apartments. And this was in like the, when the ground, like at the ground floor, so there were like, those rooms were not for living. And they opened this little produce market. I don't know if you can read the sign, but there's tomatoes, 25 cents a pound. Something else that there was 19 cents a pound. So this was part of a wonderful Leela. This is Juhu, before the temple was built. And there was houses there that were inhabited, by people living. And then when we got the land, we didn't have a place to live. We were living in tents. And we got a place for Prabhupada somehow when somebody vacated, and we were in every evening he would go on the roof. And at that time, anybody could come for darshan. And these young girls who are now like, grown up with children of their own and maybe even grandmothers, they would come. And the lady on the left with that turquoisey blue sari, she was one of the ladies, and she was like teaching the girls Bharatanatyam, so they would come and dance with Srila Prabhupada. And she was part of the illustrious family, the warrior family, and she was the youngest, so they called her baby warrior. But she she was not just like superficially interested, she was actually really interested, and she's the one who pulled the whole family into it. And so these girls would come up and present these spontaneous dancing. So here we have Dallas, Texas, where the first Gurukul was in the movement. A bittersweet situation. So the little girl, Chandramukhi, is standing, she's getting a sweet. Prabhupada would like pass out cookies and sweets. Behind it says Nandarani Devi Dasi, that was her mother. And of course, she was very happy to see her daughter get this mercy of Prabhupada. Nandarani herself was an amazing devotee. They had gone, her and her husband, had actually gone to Tehran. Yeah, that's Tehran. They were in Tehran with their two little girls. And they managed to get something going there. But that was quite a brave thing to do in those days. So Prabhupada was really profoundly appreciative of their efforts. And now, then that whole war thing broke out, and they had to get out before they were killed, so they did. But now they're in Dallas, and she was the Pujari Kalachandji, beautiful deities. And she was in the temple room and she heard Prabhupada was coming, but the deities were closed. And she knew he was going to want to see the deities. So she ran up, and just as he came through the door, she opened the curtains. And she's expecting to say something about Radha Chandra, but what did he say? He said, Nandarani, you are here. And when he said that, tears, there was a witness to this, so tears shot out of her eyes like a string almost. And the person who was watching, her name was Adisha. She's left her body now, so is Nandarani even. She started crying also to see that sweet exchange, that wonderful recognition. So in Rome, the counterpart to Dr. Mai was the one that I ran just to the nose, Ali Krishna Devi Dasi. So even though her husband was very competent, he's he's like a GBC man, he's like the head of the BBT for the serving state, like French and Italy, etc. She was the first one to start translating the books into Italian, and she translated the Prabhupada during public programs. So here, unfortunately, part of the picture isn't there, but you see up in the right-hand corner, there's like a little railing. That's Sri Prabhupada's Vyasasana. And Sri Prabhupada was present, sitting on that Vyasasana, but he asked Vasagi Dasi to lead the class. So you can see over on the left side, there's the altar, Govinda right there. And, Kasali, she was one of the younger members of the early Indian Yatra. And she's giving Bhagavatam class for those who doubt that women should or could give Bhagavatam class, One time, he got the first copy of his Upanishad, so he's showing the people who was in Calcutta, and he goes, does anybody know the verses? And everybody was silent. Priscilla raised her hand, he goes, you know? She goes, yes. And he said, recite, and she did all 18 verses. So far as girls are boys lecturing in the morning, that doesn't make any difference. Either girl or boy. Devotees may deliver lecture if they choose to do so. We have no such distinction of body designation, male or female. Krishna consciousness is a spiritual platform. As such, anyone who is a devotee of the Lord, following in the line of specific succession, can deliver a lecture on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was, in 68, a letter to Shamadasi, who had been married to Haridev, actually. But the fact that he had to say that, you can understand what was the pushback. So he had to say that. So literature today, Dasi, is part of the archives, which are located in North Carolina. And I don't know how many of you are familiar, but there is a massive repository of all photographs and the writings, etc., letters of Srila Prabhupada, and they got a grant from somebody to have a proper facility, climatized and all. Otherwise, things, especially paper, they tend to disintegrate over time, photographs fade. So I don't know how far along they are from that project, or might be finished, but she was one of the, behind Vishaka, one of the lead photographers in this time. So Kim Waters was an amazing personality. She was an author and she was a musician. She was a beautiful voice and sang beautiful. Her and her husband did many wonderful musical projects together for Prabhupada. And she got the idea she would like to do an illustrated form of the Gita. And so she and her husband went to New Vrindavan for a large program that they were having there at the time, and they wanted to seek his, blessings for that program. And somehow, because there were so many devotees, they were never getting the opportunity, and then it was the last day Prabhupada was going to go, and this now or never, and they kind of jumped around, and Prabhupada stopped, and the husband blurted out their plan, and Prabhupada answered in 2 words. He empowered them in 2 words. He took his cane with emphasis, do it. So now, she's showing him, here's what it would look like. And he was really pleased with that. So we did have a whole class on Devi Dasi. The first initiated lady is coming, along with her husband, whose head is not part of the picture. She was no awe and reverence. She was like in the Mother Yasoda mood, my naughty son. She would even scold from the Prabhupada. Swami, you shouldn't do that. One time he got locked out of the apartment because this crazy lady got in. She got banged on the door, he opens the door, she barges her way in. Swami, will you marry me? And I said, I can't, honestly, I can't. And then she wasn't going, so he was going over to Janaki's apartment, 2 doors down, and she stayed in, the door got closed. So now he's locked out, the lady's in. So Mukunda, the spare key, he was going over. She stops Prabhupada and she goes, Swamiji, and she's shaking her finger, Swamiji, you should never leave that apartment without your key. So here, what happened? Those are the next slide, I don't know if there or not. Okay, go back to that. If you can. So we're sitting in the airport in San Francisco, and he's going to leave to go to India for health reasons. And he's holding the ticket, which in those days were, like cardboard tickets. She came up behind and grabbed the ticket and said, now you can't go. I have your ticket. So there's, he was looking up to Mukunda. There's a whole sequence, but it's not in this slideshow. He's looking at Mukunda like, help, because he didn't know with her what she was going to do. I mean, maybe she would tear it up or something. So he's looking up at Mukunda to do something. And then she gave the ticket back, so now they're having this, sweet exchange. So this, let me get back to that particular one, make this one back. Otherwise it was, here. No, it's one after this. Okay, here. This was a series of lectures that Prabhupada gave us. It was our first big program, a series of lectures in a place called Conway Hall that still exists, and occasionally have nostalgic programs there. You can see this floor over here in the lower corner, my hands up. And what was extraordinary here was Srila Prabhupada gave his lecture, and it was more or less, you could say, a classic, you're not the body, your spirit and soul, part and parcel of Krishna lecture. And then, as would often happen, he would ask to lead the next, the final kirtan. Sometimes he would stay, sometimes he wouldn't. On this day he stayed, and he started dancing. And I was, because I would leave with him, I would go back in the car with him, and his servant, Purushottam, But I always go back to that make the evening prasad form. So myself, Saraswati, Krishnam, Srila Prabhupada would go. And we had a rented car that came along with the driver. And we got the same driver each time. His name was Eddie. I was just a, beautiful man. He's a typical English bloke. So I would not be on the stage for the second part because I needed to be ready to go and get in the car before he did, so we wouldn't have to wait both myself and Purushottam. So here was this evening, he stayed for the second kirtan, and suddenly I'm looking and I realized, my God, his feet are not touching the stage. He was like, dancing in air. I guess the yogis would say he levitated. And the whole audience suddenly realized it. They just came to their feet. It was just like one of those indescribably magic moments. So that's what was going on there. And then, came to the kirtan, he leaves. And, myself and Purushottam and Saraswati, we scoot out, we're in the car. Eddie's there, he's opening the door for, Prabhupada to get in. Prabhupada gets in, and Eddie goes around and he gets in. He pulls out the key and he starts to put in the ignition, but then he stops from turning it. And he turns to Prabhupada and goes, well, Prabhupada, he's mispronounced, well, Prabhupada, you got a little out of control tonight, didn't you? And then he nudged him with his elbow. And myself, we were shocked, myself and Purushottam goes to rebirth material. Then he starts to turn the key again, and then he says, it's just like you said, this car's no good without a driver. And so I realized at that moment, Srila Prabhupada had perfectly connected with everyone as he could. And this person who we thought was not at all interested in what was going on had gotten the message. This was our little place in Legends. So here is a interesting picture. This was the after this big program in Delhi, big Pandal outdoor program, thousands of people coming nightly, Prabhupada lecturing. Beautiful deities that are now at the Manarata Gokul Nanda were there on the stage, being elaborately worshipped. They weren't for decoration, they were fully worshipped every day. And Jamuna had worked so hard for this. She was the one who procured the deities. She had, did an amazing amount of service to assist this program being successful. And in doing so, she became so exhausted, she was just actually kind of weak, and Prabhupada noticed that. He had said he would take us to Vrindavan. We hadn't gone yet as a group. So we're on the way to Vrindavan, and it was a bus. This it was an AC bus, air-conditioned bus. Why was it? I mean, this was 71 or 2. What kind of air-conditioned bus would there be? Well, there was no windows. It was just open, so that way it was air conditioned. And it was not padded seats, it was just like wood. So Prabhupada knew that would be a little bit of a rough ride. Now we have the Yamuna Express, and it's, you can zip there in 2.5 hours, but in those days it was at least 4 hours. And so he told Yamuna to come and sit in his car, an ambassador, and we were in the bus. Well, as things turned out, his car broke down and Prabhupada ended up on the bus with Colin bus. That's one thing. You see this watch, it wasn't decoration. Prabhupada was very astute with time. It was, we joke now, just now coming, just now coming. No, Prabhupada was not just now coming at time, Krishna says, time I am. And Prabhupada was very aware of each moment, each part of a second. So one time on the GBC, Prabhupada was the chairperson, and he had this idea, as the kings of old would always have a day when all of the citizens could come in and they could say whatever they wanted to the king. So he was the head of the GBC that year. Have an open session in the morning, people could come in and say whatever they wanted. I mean, it was quite a risk, actually. So this first person came in and he goes, I don't think the GBC mentions like fancy watches. And I felt like, what is he saying? Most of us, maybe a Walmart watch or something. So I said something to defend my godbrothers on the GBC, and he goes, well, Gopal Krishna Goswami has a Rolex. And Gopal Krishna Goswami goes, Mr. Prabhupada gave me that watch, and this was the watch. And at that point, it was 37 years after Prabhupada's departure. Every year he would, have a watch service, so he kept perfect time. It's my daughter, offering Prabhupada garland, is doing one bath. So here we are. Anybody recognize where this might be? Huh? Well, specifically where it's actually, yeah, Saravarsana. So we get there and we see, there was these little carriers, that bring up the hill. So Prabhupada's male disciples decided that we would take the palanquin, but we wouldn't use the local palanquin carriers, that they would carry them themselves. So the story of Jagaraj. Things around. So at a certain point, which was just saying, you can see Prabhupada's face, he goes, okay, you've had your fun now, let go. No, but, well, not professional, the local carriers, let them do it. And over here on the left is Madeira Devi Dasi, who had the dubious honor of being married to His Grace Tata Prabhu. She joined in Buffalo when she was like a young girl. So when she gets married, she was like 17, but she was very proficient in cooking, chanting the bhajans, playing the ganga, playing the harmonium, playing tarkal. She was really, very qualified. And one day her husband goes in Prabhupada and she's with him. He says, I want to take sannyas. Like, she's maybe 18 or 19 and he's not like, harvest. What do you want to take sannyas for? He goes, because my wife won't do what I tell her to do. And Prabhupada said, oh, well, your wife is a very intelligent girl. You can do what she says. So this is a prototype. Does anybody have any idea? This is a big outdoor program in Calcutta. But you see that there is this prototype there. Yeah, that was the first prototype for the GOVP, which would become the GOVP. And at this program, there was some pretty exciting action because there was a group of people in Calcutta called Naxalites, and they were they weren't even like proper communists, they were like a radical terrorist group. And they started giving, they were threatening Prabhupada, actually. And one time they stormed in, and people were afraid. I mean, they caused fear in people's heart. And some people were even leaving. And Prabhupada did two things. One, he said, tell them I'll meet them. And we were shocked. Why did you want to meet them? Tell them I'll meet them. And then he started chanting the Govinda prayers. That pacified him, and then he met them afterwards. And the result was one of the leaders actually became a devotee. Yeah. Okay, just go. So Shilani Devi Dasi on the right, she was person trained by Srila Prabhupada in Pujari work. And when she joined the movement, it was in San Francisco. And she came in, and she was older than most of us. And we're like, who's this old lady now? She was like 35, right? We considered that like woman at that time. Anyway, she left her body just recently. We needed them. This is Rossi, sorry. Was. So what was happening, there was always a lot of interesting things that would happen. So you saw these kind of, visual exchanges, glances between her and the Prabhupada. So she's leading and he starts singing over her. So she looks up and should I stop? And he's telling her she should go on, but he still was singing. It's not a movie, that's only I mean. Anyways, so the next day she goes, what was going on? What was that? And he goes, we did not see her on a movie game. Yeah, there was a few incidences. I helped in a fight where Prabhupada asserted you're on a movie game. In London, if you look on the altar, on each side of the altar, there's a little chair, one for Narada Muni and one for Brahma. So this is an interesting story. This is Malati Devi Dasi. She was the first widow in ISKCON. Because when got killed, she was left with a little, like a baby. So she was kind of confused what she should do or not. And she was thinking she really liked being a mother. She would like maybe to have more children, but now her husband was dead and gone. And her brother was also to go. He said, well, let's ask Prabhupada. So they got an appointment and they went up the stairs. This was Los Angeles. And they go to his room and make obeisances. And before they even got their heads up, he goes, so do you want my advice? Now, what do you say if your guru is asking that question? If you say yes, you better be prepared to execute it. If you say no, that's kind of, what are you doing there? Here she is, showering red rose petals at the airport. Anyways, she said yes. So what did he say to her? It didn't work the first time. What is the guarantee it will work a second time? Just take care of your daughter, that she was a nice devotee. She did that, and then her daughter got married and had babies, as is the case. So then she got the second batch, nice children, And then later on, a very nice devotee and her in Hawaii, they got married and together are serving the movement very nicely and now in Alachua in her later years. This is one of those massive programs we do. So here is this, it's a very kind of interesting picture in that it shows a progression in the movement. So at this point in time, you notice there's quite a few yellow stars. We went through the yellow, like none of the stars and men were wearing yellow too. So why was that? Married men and those who weren't married, as you can see, there's many, were wearing the saffron colored cloth. So how did that happen and why did it stop? Well, it happened because we didn't have at that point any real saris or dhotis. So we just get cloth or we would cut sheets. People would say they look like they're wearing sheets. Well, we were. It was like what was going on. So one devotee got the idea to get a bolt of cloth and make kind of a uniform look because it going out in Harinam didn't look so great, kind of looking the way we looked. So he brought the cloth to Prabhupada and Prabhupada approved the idea. He said, dye it saffron. So this person was a cook, and if you're a cook, you know that when you put the saffron in the water or milk, it turns yellow. So he went and dyed the cloth bright yellow. He took it the next day to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at it, and he didn't want to waste it. So he said, well, the hospice can wear that, and then he explained. But that got interpreted as Swamiji said, Greenhouses must wear yellow, and like, even without internet overnight, man, everybody was in bright yellow, yellow. When we went to the UK, we were still in the yellow, the yellow sanitizer time. People would offer us sorry, and we stupidly say, oh no, we were yellow. Anyway. The early miracles and just moving on and learning about Dharma discourses. So Shantali Devi Dasi was a very dear friend of mine before meeting Prabhupada, and then whatever I would do, she would do it. I got a motor scooter, a Vespa motor scooter. We were working at the post office for Christmas. That was one way young people would get money enough to survive for the rest of the year. So we met there at the post office. I got a motor scooter, she got a motor scooter. I joined Prabhupada and then she followed along. When we got married, she got married. I had a kid, she had 4 of them. But she was a mixed heritage, which was kind of unusual in those days. And she spoke Spanish, so she was one of the first translators for the Spanish books. And she wanted to code, she first asked Prabhupada, before she got married, of course, because all the women were living scattered. So could we get one place and live together? And then that way we can, combine our financial resources and not have to, spend so much time away trying to make money to have a place to live. And Prabhupada agreed with that. And a little later, so that was our first one for the ashram. And the men were living in the temple, but it was like in the basement, which had been a coal cellar. They just destroyed the coal. It wasn't like they had any great situation. But by being together, your energy was more focused. So then she wanted to go to Mexico and, start a center there. So Prabhupada said, yes, you could do that. And he said, but then who will take care of the ladies? So, maybe better you stay back. So she did, and then later she got married, and her and her husband then went together to Mexico City and opened up the first temple in Mexico City. Now she's passed and so does the husband. Oh, he's still living actually. He's still living. So this picture has some significance. What's happening here is 2 things. Rukmini, who was Wendy, came with us to Montreal on her way to England, and she got initiated, so she is becoming Rukmini here as her beads. But the rest of us, Tugula, Sarya, myself, Mukunda, of course, Guru Das and Shamsir, they're not like in the frame. We were given second initiation, and this is what's going on there. That's Rukmini becoming Rukmini. Prabhupada said Rukmini was very beautiful, you're also very beautiful. Now, Rukmini was very beautiful wife of Krishna, and now you will become a beautiful devotee, something like that. Okay, here's can speak for itself to a certain degree. Somehow or other, it became like the women shouldn't do Dandavat. It didn't come from Prabhupada, and you can see there's Srila Prabhupada, and there they are, flat out. I was always trying to check that. How did that happen? And women would become too Dandavat. Well, it didn't come from Prabhupada. As far as we could tell, there was a situation where there was crowded, and now there was some sannyasis. So the women were asked just not do full Dandavat because it was a crowded situation. And then that became like, and it wasn't an order, it was just a consideration for the context and circumstance. But then it became, you have educated young men who no, women shouldn't have done this, And they come up with all this stuff from some obscure shastras. Like one of them, you might have heard it, oh, the women's breast shouldn't touch the floor. Well, we're wearing, as children, we're wearing the sari, our breasts are covered, they're not touching the floor. Anyway, people can come up with some kind of new excuses for whatever they want, but it was not an issue for the problem. You can see. So, this is the Bhagavatam. One should offer obeisances unto the Lord with a mind humbled through devotion, while offering dandavats by falling on the ground like a rod. And this is in the 6th canto instructions to women in regulated devotional service. One should with great delight and satisfaction offer obeisances falling straight like a rod. And that was Kashyapa Muni just, instructing Devi. Anybody recognize the male devotee there? Yeah, that's Gopal. Gopal is the Maharaj before he was Maharaj. Yeah. This is circa 68. So there was a group of actors and actresses that were combining their abilities to put on dramas, and Prabhupada was extremely appreciative. And Rasikya was one of the main ones. Samrupa Rasikya had actually been trained as an actress, her and her husband, like Taksha. And Prabhupada wanted this group of devotees to go around the world, but it's kind of expensive to fly a large number of devotees around the world. So they got to Mayapur at one point and did some programs there. Prabhupada was extremely pleased. And then here was one another thing they would do. They would just go back there. They would, on Harinam, they would go out and then they'd stop at a street corner where there'd be a lot of people, and they'd suddenly, two of the main persons, so this is Rasakya and Sudama, they would appear out as if out of nowhere and do a spontaneous little skit on the street to further, attract people's attention to Krishna consciousness. This is in Jaipur, 1972. And at this big program, which was held in the grounds of the Radha Govinda temple, the little deities of Radha Govinda are being installed, and the large deities that were the presiding deities are the deities that are now in New York City. And then Tamal Krishna goes on to accept sannyas at this program. My daughter, Vishaya Devi Dasi was so pleased with Prabhupada, he would ask her to lead the Guru Puja in Mayapur, different places. So here was the cornerstone ceremony in Juhu, and here is one of Prabhupada's dear daughters assisting in that project. So we were always feeling very much wanted. We were feeling very much part of what was going on because we were always engaged by His divine grace. We're Vaishnavas. We're not concerned with male or female position in life. That is simply a bodily concept of life. It's not spiritual. Whether one is male or female, it doesn't matter. Simply chant Hare Krishna and follow the four principles, and your life will be perfect. This movement was the president of the electoral community. Here's everybody pulling down their hearts. So here was can you go back to that? So here, okay, so this was a few years ago, I think in 2016, it was Prabhupada's Disappearance Day observance. And so these ladies you see here are Srila Prabhupada's spiritual daughters. And we were observing the Disappearance Day ceremony for Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. And we were asked to come on the stage, and we were the first speakers. So, Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, huge. Put the lights on. I couldn't see, you gave me the clock, but it's dark, so I couldn't see the time.
We'll have about 10 minutes for questions. So any questions or comments from anyone?
Questions or comments from anyone? This is quite a presentation, I must say.
I was kind of thinking we are reading those Prabhupada's books. Yeah, and he's struggling to go to, he's struggling to go to US. And now after that, all this so much, kind of, like no one must have imagined there in India that, so much will happen after when, so it's amazing to see about that, that when I read those books, that I will be able to see how much he did after that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, so the context to that comment was we are reading Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita every day. So, okay. Any additional comments or questions from anyone? So I have kind of a question discussed, a comment discussed with a question. Of course, we see that we have evidence, we have anecdotal evidence, we have visual evidence, we have audio evidence as well of how Srila Prabhupada never distinguished between his male and female, Vaishnava and Vaishnava. Yeah, excellent service. So, what happened? I mean, nowadays, there has been a little bit of a color, at least in some circles in ISKCON, where not everybody, not women are not necessarily treated on equal footing. So, I mean, what should we do?
Understand also what are you seeing as equal footing? That's one thing. And by equal means everybody has a right to be engaged in devotional service. Now, not everybody might do the same things at the same time, but the service opportunities are there, and that's what we found. At one point he wanted to move and go into Dasi. He was just starting the GBC, and he suggested, well, they can both be on the GBC. He said that each can have a vote. So that goes one. And if you're making an offering, please take the lid off the water supply. Sorry, but anyways, there were so many times that there was some of the things I can't even tell, but they were pretty wild. And we were being given very responsible services in terms of pushing on this movement. Probably use that term quite often. I want the boys and girls to push on this movement. And as such, we did not feel excluded. We were there, we were on the front lines. Nowadays, there's, There's somebody, President Lee, talking about the matter, the shopper. Muki Devi Dasi, one of the largest, community Vaishnavas in North America, over 1,500 members there. And she's loved, and she's a strong leader. So, but yeah, there are people with the pushbacks, and I'm not going to name names, but there are. Just today I got a message from somebody, what you do about this person? He said, that this person is a sannyasi, but he's doing his thing his way, outside of this level, he's probably disciples, so he teaches people, just read Prabhupada's books, read we've got a bond of love where, ladies are giving their experiences. We've got so many books, Shamsun's book, Jason Ryan, Kunda's book, Miracle on 26 Avenue, Ron Shor's book, excellent book, When the Sun Rises, about the UK Doctrine beginning. So read these books by Prabhupada and about Prabhupada. Become familiar with Prabhupada, the person and his teachings. And then you won't be confused by persons who want to introduce something else in the name of so-called, whatever they want to call it. We know clearly what Prabhupada wanted us to do, push on this movement. And if pushing people against their nature, that's not going to help things,
So when we see the evidence in front of us, see how involved Srila Prabhupada's daughters were in pretty much all facets of service, do you see a change in the involvement of Vaishnavis in the current generation of ISKCON, where they are hesitant to take on certain roles or certain types of services?
I mean, that may be there, people have their preferences, but what I see is if people aren't engaged or finding engagement, there's two ways to look at it. First of all, I was never one to wait to be asked because I thought there was a lot to do, so that option's always there. And people nowadays are also starting their own projects in correlation with, Prabhupada's teachings. And that's the plus and a minus. The plus is that they're doing it and they're, promoting through the Prabhupada and his teaching. The minus is, the lack of connectivity with ISKCON. And I don't fault them for that. I totally understand their frustration. As a DBC person, I get it, So I think there's going to be a period, and we're entering into that period now of the movement is not going to shut down, but there's going to be some changes going on, and some of them might be a little bit, confusing, and there'll be kind of like to the close of the washer, there's signal kind of look at the dirt is coming out, and then hanging out to dry. So, I think there may be a moment, a period like that, as we kind of forge ahead. But if people can just get together, and as Prabhupada famously said, your love for me will be shown and cooperate. And the people are, well, who do we cooperate with? Use some intelligence and stay together. When we went to India, to England, also India, but also it wasn't like a smooth ride all the time, but we were fixed in our determination to open that center for Srila Prabhupada. So even if Prabhupada's not here now, and he may not physically be here, that's a fact, but he's definitely here through his teachings, and the more we connect with those, the more we feel his presence. And I've had people just have very profound experiences with the presence of Srila Prabhupada, decades after his departure.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions?
And I've had people go up and you heard them and looking at them, and they turn, does he ever speak? Does he ever speak? And I said, he speaks through his volumes, through his books, through his recordings. We have all of that access, videos and the recordings of his conversations, recordings of his, I forget how many lectures there are, 2,200 or something like that. There's so much available. We connect with them and find some way to do something. You don't have to wait for somebody to tap you on the shoulder, but if someone is kind enough to tap you on the shoulder, be open to it.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for giving us a window or insight into what was it like at that time. So one question I have is, as you mentioned, there was a photographer who came in contact with Prabhupada and became a devotee, and there's also a camera driver. There are there are many people who came into association just by chance and became devotees, and some might have come into
Problem is that was not chance. There's no chance. Everything was grand design. Yeah, but anyway, but it seemed like we had a chance.
So there might be a few people who may not be very inspired or moved by Srila Prabhupada's presence. So what is the mode in which we should take association with Prabhupada devotees to have that change of heart happen?
Well, Lord Chaitanya brought, he left behind 8 verses, and the most prominent one for most people to not abuse in a humble state of mind, But you should also be, humble means what? Ready to serve. It doesn't mean you lie down like a doormat and let people trample over you, but ready for service, ready to offer service. And when you offer service to Srila Prabhupada, you present reciprocation. Maybe it's just that you change the water, you have a glass of water, and you can sit here all day, let me freshen it up, You do something for them, something tangible. Guru Puja is an offering, if you live near a temple, and Guru Puja, you get an offer, opportunity to offer some flower petals. It's not just like in religion, you're offering some houses, you're Prabhupada. You're offering your obeisances during the Guru, you're clapping your hands and playing an instrument. This is all tangible expressions of service to the Prabhupada. Service to Radha and Krishna, service to Lord Nitai, service to Jagannath. So when that happens, unless you're totally dull stone, there's some reciprocation. You feel happy when you participate in your time, isn't it? Where is that happiness coming from?
Additional questions, comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm wondering on the topic of transgender persons, whether Prabhupada's
That letter that was about King Jennifer? About King Jennifer, backstory. I don't have enough time to go into a lot of backstories. So about King Jennifer. What was about King Jennifer's problem? She couldn't figure out whether to be male or female. It doesn't matter. Choose one and stick with it. The overriding principle is to become engaged in Krishna service. So that, it's not a new thing. Just now having a name that's like, but that's been going on since time immemorial. What did our Buddha do when he had to go undercover at one point? For all intents and purposes, nowadays somebody told me he was transgender. No, he wasn't. He was just going undercover so stay alive and keep the group together. But this is not a new thing, in India, the pendulum swings, so it goes from one side to the other, it'll settle down and things will take their normal course. And I have personal assistants that have formerly been male-bodied people that even in the Army or the Navy, it was a pretty rash thing, when you think about it, it's a pretty rash step, you're getting part of your body cut off, you gotta be pretty sure about what you're doing. And one of them, she just recently left her body, but she had been male, married, had kids. She said, if I had come into contact with Christian consciousness sooner and I had understood this philosophy, I wouldn't have done what I did. She wasn't expressing regret, but she just said, what she said, I would have understood it in a different way. The main thing is we're not the body, we're spirit, soul. If you spend so much time on the bottom of that emphasis, you're going to miss that point. And you miss a wonderful opportunity in this human form of life to serve Krishna. It doesn't matter, choose one and stick with it, because advice to the gender was. Which you followed, actually, by the way.
Okay. Some of my best, I must say best, my closest devotees that I knew were also either transgender or homosexual. So that's what it is. Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right. So then let us please. Oh, sorry, Akash, I apologize. I didn't see you.
So thank you very much, Mataji, for sharing wonderful classes. So just a comment, it is very, very appreciable that how all the Prabhupada disciples, including you, that impression of that interaction with Prabhupada, how it has stayed with you for so long and how it is fresh in your mind. So that is how much what was your mood during that time? I mean, it's similar to what Prabhuji asked, how you received it. When we deal with each other nowadays, we don't we are not that deep and that we don't remember. Okay, it happened with these details and this flower went here and all those details. But with Prabhupada, all the disciples, they have so much memory of Prabhupada.
Part of that seems to be expected. Everybody has to develop their own relationship with Krishna, with their spiritual master. So I'm not telling these stories to entertain you. I'm just hoping you find yourself coming closer to Prabhupada. That's my hope. And sometimes there's doubts in people's minds. So I'm just trying, how. Because, we see these people who have this attitude towards women. We see it, we know it. So at least I want you to know that Prabhupada didn't have an attitude towards women in a negative manner. So how you're going to feel, how you're going to remember, that's okay. That's up to you. My experience can be your experience, and your experience similarly will be mine. I learned a lot from people like yourself. What you're doing, what you're experiencing. The main thing is to find yourself connecting with Krishna. The Prabhupada's a good starting place because he was totally connected with Krishna. He didn't adjust that position at all. That relationship with Krishna is where you're talking to Krishna. Like for us, most of us, Krishna still may be on the, theoretical, okay, so he's got it, things like that. But it hasn't, it's like when the lights are off, you're not seeing, you open up, okay, everything's there. So in between, before everything is there and you can actually see it, you're kind of imagining what it might be like. So maybe we're in that imaginative state what it might be like when I actually see Krishna face to face. We're seeing him, but there's a few veils. So once those veils are lifted up and you actually see Krishna, that's going to be a real experience. Because if you want that experience, you have to work for it. Like when one goes to India, you work to save money so you can get there and have that experience. In the same way, we need to work for that experience with Krishna. In reality, as a person who I see face to face and I can speak to and speak to me, the problem is the truth that can happen. And will happen if you want it. That's up to us. And sometimes during kirtans or maybe during a lecture, there's this little moment when all of a sudden it's like it's surreal. You're seeing Krishna, you see him. And then someone said this gun because I'm like, it was somewhere else. But I'm sure everybody's been in those church homes when suddenly you're not in the material world. There was a sun around you, you had a moment in the spiritual world. People use those moments to like encourage us.
Any other closing comments, questions from you? Okay. Yes.
Just Hare Krishna Mataji, it was a wonderful class. You just showed us all the previous things, Prabhupada's. I wanted to ask you, how did you get that Jagannath's DT from the shop?
And now what time is it now? It's probably, okay, I can give you a shorthand story. I walked in this shop. I had no money, I had no internet, I had nothing I needed. I just went in this store, I was busted towards. And then my little brain said, what are you doing here? You're in the living room, get out. And I was walking out. And I walked by the cash registers and there were these big boxes with little wooden figurines. It was kind of interesting. And I see this one with big round eyes, black face, and a big smile. I picked it up and on the bottom it said, made in India. So I was thinking, family, wow, so many of these from India. All of us from India. I mean, seriously, this is what he was going through. And Maharaja's from India. This is from India. And I put him in my pocket and walked out the door. Later, Senator Mukunda was just sitting on this little overhead mantle in our apartment. And Senator Mukunda took me to his Swami because we followed the temple. And to their astonishment, he made obeisances. Where did you find? And they're looking at each other with astonishment. Malati found all her. So he had a servant. I was downstairs in the temple cooking, which was my save in those days. And so he wants to see you, so I shut off the burners and I went up to his place quite quickly. There was an elevator. I was young and fast. I didn't take the elevator, I was faster than the elevator. So I get there and I walk in and I see that, probably is what you found, and yes. And he goes, so this is Jagannath. But he asked, were there others? And I'm thinking, yeah, there was a whole bunch of them in the barrels. I said, yes, lots. He's like, silver one, here, Prabhupada is silver. No, two others different. I remember the white face smiling one and the yellow face smiling one. So I said, yes. And he said, Raymond. And then he goes, this is Jagannath. Jagannath means Lord of the universe. This is Krishna. And then he turned to Shamsundar and he said, so can you carve one size? And immediately, yes. Prabhupada would ask you something. Yes, that was empowerment. You might not have any clue and have never done, but Prabhupada, yes, I can do. I will do.
Okay. Any final questions, comments from anyone? Well, then let us take this opportunity again to thank Her Grace, Malati Devi Dasi, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. May I please request everybody now to stand up for our evening aarti. Are you singing or do you want us to sing?